Previously, we explored Think Again by Adam Grant and the importance of rethinking outdated beliefs. Now it's time to act. In this episode of Empowerment Library, we dive into Finish What You Start by Peter Hollins, a practical guide to building the discipline and focus needed to follow through on your goals.
Introduction. Finish What You Start by Peter Hollins. Finish What You Start is a powerful and actionable guide to building the discipline, focus, and mental toughness needed to overcome procrastination and follow through on your goals. Peter Hollins, a best-selling author in the fields of psychology and personal development, explains why most people abandon projects halfway and how to rewire your habits and mindset for long-term consistency and execution. Rather than relying on motivation or willpower alone, Hollins explores the psychological blocks that cause us to quit, such as emotional resistance, lack of clarity, and fear of imperfection, and replaces them with proven systems to develop self-control and mental resilience. This book isn't just about finishing tasks, it's about transforming into the kind of person who always follows through.
Chapter 1. The Science and Psychology of Incompletion. Chapter 1 explores why we so often fail to finish the things we start, even when we begin with strong enthusiasm. Peter Hollins explains that incompletion is not just a matter of poor time management or laziness. It's deeply rooted in human psychology. Our brains are naturally drawn to novelty and excitement, which makes starting tasks feel rewarding. However, as soon as difficulty, boredom, or uncertainty set in, we experience emotional resistance. One major concept introduced is the Zeigarnik effect, which shows that our minds hold onto unfinished tasks more intensely than completed ones, creating a sense of mental tension and unease. This tension, rather than motivating us to act, often leads to avoidance, procrastination, and guilt. Hollins emphasizes that we are not wired to persist without effort. We must consciously train our ability to handle discomfort. Finishing requires emotional regulation, mental clarity, and the willingness to endure temporary frustration. Understanding the psychological roots of incompletion is the first step toward becoming someone who consistently follows through. It's not about doing more, it's about managing the inner resistance that stops us from doing what matters.
Chapter 2. Why Can't I Follow Through? In Chapter 2, Peter Hollins dives deeper into the real reasons why we struggle to follow through on tasks, even when we're fully aware of their importance. He challenges the common belief that we lack willpower or motivation, arguing instead that our failure often stems from a lack of clarity, structure, and emotional control. The mind naturally resists effortful or ambiguous tasks, and when we don't have a clear roadmap, our brains default to comfort and avoidance. Hollins points out that many people confuse intentions with actions. We plan endlessly, but never take consistent steps forward. He also highlights how our internal narratives, like "I'm just not disciplined" or "I always give up," reinforce the very behaviors we want to change. To build follow-through, he stresses the importance of creating external systems, like time blocking or accountability, developing a deeper understanding of our emotional triggers, and setting specific, actionable goals. True discipline, Hollins explains, is not about forcing yourself to work harder. It's about designing your environment and mindset so that follow-through becomes the natural outcome.
Chapter 3. Your Emotional State and Self-Discipline. Chapter 3 highlights a critical truth. Self-discipline isn't just about grit or determination. It's largely about managing your emotions. Peter Hollins explains that most of our failures to follow through are not because we don't know what to do, but because we don't feel like doing it. Our emotional state plays a powerful role in whether we take action or avoid it. When discomfort, fear, boredom, or frustration arise, our instinct is to escape those feelings by procrastinating or switching tasks. Hollins argues that mastering self-discipline requires us to become emotionally intelligent, aware of our emotional triggers and skilled in responding to them rather than being controlled by them. He introduces practical strategies like mindfulness, deep breathing, and self-talk to help manage these emotional impulses. The key takeaway is this: discipline isn't about being robotic or suppressing feelings. It's about learning to work through emotional resistance rather than waiting for the right mood. By taking action regardless of temporary discomfort, we build true internal strength and momentum.
Chapter 4. How to Engineer Mental Toughness and Grit. In Chapter 4, Peter Hollins focuses on the essential qualities of mental toughness and grit, the psychological endurance that separates finishers from quitters. He explains that mental toughness is not a natural trait but a skill that can be intentionally developed. At its core, it's about pushing through discomfort, uncertainty, and fatigue without giving in. Hollins emphasizes that grit is the ability to stay committed to long-term goals, even when motivation fades or progress feels slow. One of the key practices he recommends is deliberately placing yourself in controlled situations that test your patience and persistence, what he calls training discomfort. He also suggests building grit through small, daily acts of discipline, such as doing things you'd rather avoid. The chapter highlights that resilience isn't about avoiding hardship, but learning to stay composed and committed in the face of it. Mental toughness grows when you prove to yourself, again and again, that quitting is not your default. By rewiring your self-image and reinforcing a mindset of persistence, you cultivate the inner strength to finish anything you start.
Chapter 5: The Fine Art of Effective Goal Setting. Chapter 5 shifts the focus to a foundational skill: effective goal setting. Peter Hollins argues that one of the biggest reasons people fail to follow through is that their goals are too vague, unrealistic, or disconnected from their daily lives. Ambiguous goals like get in shape or be more productive don't offer clear direction or urgency. Hollins introduces the concept of SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, as a way to add clarity and structure to intentions. He emphasizes that goals should be broken down into actionable steps that can be tracked, reviewed, and adjusted over time. Another critical point is aligning your goals with your personal values and identity. When a goal feels meaningful, you're far more likely to stay committed. Hollins also recommends setting process goals rather than only outcome goals. For example, instead of focusing solely on writing a book, commit to writing 500 words a day. This approach builds momentum and reduces overwhelm. Ultimately, setting the right kind of goals creates a roadmap for discipline and the confidence that comes from knowing exactly what to do next.
Chapter 6: How to be mentally tough on a daily basis. In Chapter 6, Peter Hollins builds on the concept of grit by teaching how to apply mental toughness in your daily life. While long-term resilience is important, daily consistency is what creates lasting results. Hollins emphasizes that toughness isn't about pushing yourself to extremes, it's about mastering the small, uncomfortable moments that show up every day. He introduces practical tactics such as time blocking, habit stacking, and setting non-negotiable routines that make discipline automatic. He also recommends using daily challenges, small acts of discomfort, to build your tolerance to resistance and sharpen your follow-through muscle. Examples include waking up early, finishing a task before starting another, or completing a workout when you don't feel like it. These actions, while small, teach your brain that your feelings don't dictate your actions. Hollins also stresses the importance of managing your energy and protecting your focus by removing distractions and simplifying decision-making. The goal is to create an environment and mindset where discipline becomes effortless, not because it's easy, but because it's built into how you live.
Chapter 7: Using the Right Tools to Beat Procrastination. In Chapter 7, Peter Hollins addresses one of the most common barriers to finishing what we start: procrastination. Rather than blaming laziness, Hollins explains that procrastination is often a symptom of deeper issues like fear, perfectionism, overwhelm, or a lack of clarity. To combat it, he offers a set of practical tools and mental strategies designed to help you take immediate, focused action. One such tool is the 5-minute rule, committing to just 5 minutes of a task to overcome the initial resistance. This small commitment often leads to full engagement. He also recommends implementation intentions, which involve setting clear, if-then plans, e.g., if it's 8 a.m., then I'll start writing, to eliminate decision-making friction. Other techniques include time boxing, setting artificial deadlines, and using accountability partners to stay on track. Hollins emphasizes that beating procrastination isn't about doing more. It's about creating systems that make starting so easy that delaying becomes harder than doing the work. The more you reduce friction and structure your environment for action, the less room procrastination has to thrive.
Chapter 8: Developing Atomic Habits for Consistency. Chapter 8 focuses on the power of building small, consistent habits, what Hollins calls atomic habits, to support long-term discipline and productivity. He emphasizes that success doesn't come from dramatic bursts of effort, but from daily repeatable behaviors that compound over time. These small actions, done consistently, create identity shifts. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Hollins highlights the importance of designing habits that are easy to start and hard to skip. He discusses habit triggers, cue-based behaviors, environmental design, making good habits convenient, and positive reinforcement to keep momentum going. Instead of relying on motivation, you build a system where progress becomes automatic. He also warns against perfectionism and encourages embracing the idea of never miss twice. If you skip once, get back on track the next time. Consistency, not intensity, is what drives real change. By focusing on sustainability over intensity, you build a foundation of discipline that strengthens your ability to finish what you start, without burnout or overwhelm.
Chapter 9. Finding Focus in a Distracted World. In the final chapter, Peter Hollins tackles one of the biggest modern challenges to finishing anything: distraction. We live in a world full of notifications, temptations, and endless mental clutter, making it harder than ever to stay focused on meaningful work. Hollins explains that focus is not just about willpower, it's about deliberate attention management. He suggests eliminating distractions at the source by creating boundaries, silencing notifications, using website blockers, organizing your environment, and clearly defining work zones and time periods. He also encourages the use of deep work strategies, such as working in uninterrupted blocks, taking purposeful breaks, and avoiding multitasking, which actually reduces efficiency. Additionally, Hollins discusses the importance of mental clarity, removing unnecessary thoughts and tasks that fragment attention. To finish what you start, you must learn to protect your attention like a scarce resource. The chapter concludes by reinforcing the idea that success in any goal depends not just on starting strong, but on creating the right mental and physical conditions to maintain focus through the finish line. Conclusion. In the conclusion of Finish What You Start, Peter Hollins ties together the core message of the book. Starting is easy, but finishing is what defines success. He reminds us that the inability to follow through is not a personal flaw, but a skill gap, one that can be closed through deliberate practice, self-awareness, and structured effort. Throughout the book, Hollins has provided tools to overcome emotional resistance, beat procrastination, manage distractions, and build powerful habits. But ultimately, the transformation begins with a mindset shift, seeing yourself as a finisher, someone who completes what they commit to. Discipline, focus, and consistency are not traits you're born with. They are behaviors you build. By applying the principles outlined in each chapter, you can reprogram your identity and become someone who takes action, pushes through discomfort, and turns intention into achievement. Finishing what you start isn't just about productivity. It's about building confidence, integrity, and trust in yourself.
Finish What You Start is more than just a productivity guide. It's a roadmap for rewiring your mindset, building lasting discipline, and becoming someone who follows through with clarity and purpose. Peter Hollins shows us that success isn't about doing more. It's about completing what truly matters. If you're ready to stop stalling and start finishing, this book gives you the psychological tools to do exactly that. If you found value in this summary, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Empowerment Library for more transformational insights. And tell us in the comments, what's one thing you're finally ready to finish? In our next episode, we'll be exploring The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman, an essential guide to mastering business, leadership, and decision-making without the cost of a traditional MBA. So stay tuned, and as always, keep empowering your mind, one book at a time.